How you guys doing, by the way? My name is Philip Khandehrish. By the way, I would like for you guys maybe just to stand up and come a little closer to me. Don't worry, I don't fight, unless you want me to. We're going to hang around this table right here. I'm just going to kind of talk to you about the brand, talk about some cool techniques. But beforehand, you're like, who is this asshole up here just talking about stuff, right? Let me give you a little story. Me personally, myself, I've been part of the United States Bartenders Guild in Miami since 2010. Okay, I used to run the cocktail program at a hotel called the Satai from 2010 to 2016. I've been lucky enough to compete in a lot of competitions. I lost a shit ton, but I've also won a couple as well too. And one of the ones that I won, luckily enough, was Bombay Sapphires Most Imaginative 2014, and I faced top 5 in Vegas as well too. Thanks to Julio Rivera, by the way, because he won 2013. If it wasn't for that guy helping me out and teaching me every little step of it, I would have fucked it all up as well too.
Did you read the rules?
Yes, he was very adamant about the rules. Actually, I think he wrote the rules. As a matter of fact, Julio, I'm pretty sure he did. So part of that, one of the things that I've always kind of like enjoyed about the bartending community in the world is that the fact that we have so many different ways of like, expressing ourselves, right? Being if you like, very good hospitality, taking care of people, or if you're like creating cocktails, or whatever it is. It's just there's so many different ways you can define yourself within our industry, right? And one thing that I always like to define myself is to kind of consider myself more of the nerdy bartender. And I am not smart by any way. I've just fucked up a lot in the mistakes, and that's where I've come to learn all these like different techniques, and I'm able to kind of like break them down in a way that makes it a little more, digestible and more understanding, and not less intimidating. Because a lot of stuff is easy, guys, right? At the end of the day, it's just like learning how to do it. Once you learn how to do it, then all of a sudden it's not as daunting and it's not as stressing, right? But to begin with, I would definitely like to talk about the brands, because the brands are the reason why I got a job, and if I don't talk about them, there's no reason for me to work with them, right? So I work with a company called Samson Surrey. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of Samson Surrey, but it's a wonderful company that was created by 2 ex-Bacardi CEO and CFOs as well too. They came and they created this wonderful company that was really focusing on the right way of the right spirits. Think about the farm to bottle, sustainability, very progressive. We have a couple women distillers as well too, part of our company as well too. And we carry 6 wonderful brands, all right? One of the brands you guys might be familiar with is Tequila Ocho. Okay, guys? This is, and obviously following with Patron, and Patron does wonderful things, and we have to thank Patron immensely because of the fact that they actually introduced tequila to the American market back when people didn't even look at tequila that way, right? Nobody was going to spend $40, $50 for a bottle of tequila. And Patron did a lot of things to pave the way for a lot of other brands to come in and follow suit. And Tequila Ocho is definitely one of those brands that came in, which started about around 2007, 2008, which is our first expression, was actually a 2007 expression, I believe we have. And Tequila Ocho is a great tequila because it really focuses on the terroir of tequila. You guys heard the word terroir before? With wine, talk about the climate, the soil, everything that's involved in it. This is such a terroir-focused tequila that this is one of the only tequilas, and probably the only tequila, that would ever have an estate and a vintage on the brand. Okay, so the creator of this tequila, his name is Carlos Caminera. His family makes Tapatio and El Tesoro as well too. His brother Felipe Caminera makes G4 tequila. They kind of know what they're doing, you know what I mean? And these guys are phenomenal. He is an artist when it comes to it, and pretty much everything this guy makes is delicious, right? So with Carlos Caminera, his family's been making Tapatio since 1930. They're contracted to make El Tesoro, but Tequila Ocho is Carlos Caminera's tequila. This is his expression that he generated and came up with. And he came up with a gentleman named Tomas Estes, who is the only global ambassador for Europe for agave spirits. Okay, and he attained this title by opening up a place called Cafe Pacifico in Amsterdam in the 80s, which had Mexican ingredients, and you can imagine how hard it's getting Mexican ingredients in Amsterdam in the 80s, right? So he had to import a bunch of this stuff in, right? So some of the stuff, a lot of what he imported was a lot of tequila and a lot of mezcal, right? So he did so much that the Mexican government actually noticed it and actually appointed him the European ambassador for agave spirits. And Julio Romero has the title for the American ambassador, who owns a bar called Tommy's in San Francisco, where I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of Tommy's Margarita, right? Yeah, but that's where it was born as well too. So these guys have a lot of pedigree. So Tequila Ocho, once again, wonderful tequila. Every single year we have remember how Patron was talking about the Los Altos, the Highlands? That's where we live. We actually, our agaves, Tomas Estes has over 100 different estates in a place called Arandas, which is the golden capital of Jalisco, of the Highlands, of Los Altos, where the best agaves are known to be sourced from. And from that's where we have all of our estates. So every single year, different vintage, different estate. I'm gonna go through this quick because we have a lot of stuff to go over, guys, okay? Any questions on Tequila Ocho? Doesn't fucking suck, all right, guys? I'll tell you right now, all right? So we also, if you're gonna notice, one thing about just one more point, you're gonna notice about Tequila Ocho, the Reposado as well too is very light. Our añejo and extra añejo is very light. We're always focusing on the agave first, so the barrels that we use to age are already exhausted. They've seen Tapatio Noto sort of many, many times. That's done by design. It's because we don't want the oak to overpower the agave and make sure the agave stands. In all of our expressions, even our extra añejo, you're gonna notice it's a little light. And we are zero additive added tequila. All right, guys, I don't talk bad about brands, but I can tell you right now, stay away from additive added tequilas. That's all I can say, okay? We'll leave it at that. All right, so that being said, now we're gonna talk about Mezcal Vago, which is another delicious agave spirit. Producer-focused mezcals. You have so many celebrities coming out and culturally appropriating brands. I'm sorry, that's all I'm gonna say about that. All I'm gonna say is that at the end of the day, we gotta realize agave spirits is a very cultural thing from Mexico, something that they're very proud of. And what we focus when it comes to Mezcal Vago is the producers, right? We have 4 different producers represented by different colors. This is a Miguel Guadaquin. We have the Vago Elote that's done by Aquilino Garcia. We have Tio Rey, which is the red label, which is our sangre, and then we have Joy Mariga, which is another producer. They're all about 50 to 100 miles away from each other in the area of Oaxaca as well too. So they're all showcasing how different producers can produce different mezcals and agaves as well too. And what's really cool about our red label one, which I don't have brought here, but I think it might be hiding somewhere. The red label one is actually our Ancestral mezcal. Which mezcal is broken down into industrial, artisanal, and ancestral, right? Our industrial, that's the stuff with worm in it. Stay away from it. That's the shit you clean your tires with. You don't want to drink that stuff, right? You have artisanal, obviously, where they can choose to use the agave fibers or not in the fermentation process or distillation process. Usually done in a copper pot still, as well with a tohono aroma in it, right? And then you have ancestral. Okay, ancestral is usually clay stills. All the time, the agaves have to be fermented with the fibers, as well distilled with the fibers, and as well, what we use as well too is the clay stills. Remember those Filipino clay stills that they were talking about? That's what we use for that expression as well too. Super delicious. You can literally taste them in your mouth, right? Any questions on Mezcal Vago? Nope. All right, guys. Now we're gonna travel from Mexico.
The ancestral and the
artisanal.
Do they use any of the machines like? Do they use any machine of ancestral or?
I mean, there's no machines to use. I think that first the ancestral is hand crushed agave.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not using, and then the other one's a tohono as well too. So there's not like any machines or anything like that. Tequila Ocho is a roller mill. You know, that's the closest thing you can see machine-wise. That's kind of like sugar cane that we press through. But when it comes to Mezcal Vago, it's 100% either tohono or we're using hand crushed agaves. Which, by the way, hand crushing agaves takes about 4 times as long as a tohono. The guy Tio Rey, I would hate to get slapped by this. He's got hands like that. I'm telling you about it. Guys, I'm actually going to be visiting them hopefully in December. Okay, now guys, we're going to be traveling from Mexico to France, okay? Everybody loves single malts here, Scotch fans.
When are they picking their agaves? Huh? When are they picking their agaves in the year? Is there just...
It all depends. So that's actually a good question. So it depends on what you talk about. So Tequila Ocho, we use overly ripened agaves. Okay, so agaves have a high sugar content. Agaves contain 4 things, right? Water, fiber, polycarbohydrates, and inulins, right? Polycarbohydrates and inulins are what we're going to be converted to sugar in the cooking process. We have high content measure of that amount in our agaves when it comes to Tequila Ocho. Tequila Ocho, if you look at our agaves, they're practically almost black. They're dying. I always compare them in Miami's mentality as green bananas, regular bananas, and maduros, right? We look for the maduros of agave. That's what we look for when it comes to Tequila Ocho. And because of that, we have a longer cook on our, when we stone break cook our agaves. It's about 72 hours. Most cooks about 48 hours or so. We do an extra long cook because of those, all those extra break levels, all those things that we have to convert to sugar. It's a really delicious process. And if you guys ever taste Tequila Ocho, it is the fucking best tequila in the world, man. I'm sorry, that's the reason why I work for the company, is Tequila Ocho. You know what I mean? I could have worked for many other companies, made a shit ton more money, and I was like, there's no way in hell. If the opportunity landed, I was like, there's no way I'm going to work for this brand. Any other question? And then when it comes to the other agaves, it all depends on the top 7 agaves. You know, like they were mentioning, there's over 200 species of agaves, right? There's over really like 30 of them that you really kind of distill, because other ones are like, you know, too fibrous or whatever the case may be. But it all depends on the agave strands. Like Tapas Latte takes over 28 to 32 years to grow before you're going to start distilling, right? Okay, you have ones like Tomada, which takes about, I think, like 12 to 16 years, right? You know, so it all depends on the different agave strands that we use. But classically, Espadín, I think it's about like 8 to 10, something like 8 to 11 years for them to harvest. So that's all we're going to be really waiting before we can start making these. All right, this is a really passion project. Agave. That's the industry in the world. As a matter of fact, I got tattoos of agave all around me just for our presentation.
I forget what the Quixote, what's it?
The Quixote, yeah, that's a flower. Yeah.
Do they allow it to grow? Or?
No, because the reason is once the Quixote starts growing, it starts pulling sugar out, right? We don't want that. We want all our sugars to stay in our agave. So as soon as that comes out, they rather clip it or they harvest it beforehand. As well,
so
too.
even if it's like on a 7-year and the Quixote starts to grow,
they clip it before as well too, man. So that way the sugar stays inside that actual agave. Okay. So, but once you see the flower growing, that's it. The agave is ready to produce anything afterwards, right? And all the sugars that we want in the cooking process are pretty much gone, right? It's all going to the flower as well too. Pretty much a lot of sexual innuendos we can actually throw in that one, but we're gonna leave that alone, right, guys? So, guys, the next one we're gonna talk about is a single malt from Cognac, France. Everybody thinks single malt, they think Scotch, right? Because that's what everybody gravitates towards. But they use malted barley in many things. We use malted barley in American whiskey as well too. It actually has the enzymes that help create the fermentation process, right? But what we're showcasing when it comes to brand is that not everything has to taste like Scotch, right? Everybody, if you travel around the world, that's creating a single malt is trying to recreate a version of Scotch. But you forget that there's terroir and land that you guys have. You have your own yeast strands naturally in the air. You have your own stills, right? You have so many different things that can really kind of create some more unique whiskey, and that's what brand is. It's a single malt that's grown in Finoise, which is an area of Cognac. In Cognac, you have Grand Champagne, Petit Champagne, Bordeaux, Finoise. That's where our party goes. It's actually the region of Finoise, which is right outside that center area. Everything else is done like a Cognac. Fermented with the natural yeast in the air. Okay, it's distilled in Chiron Alembic stills, which are made with cognacs. Bring a lot of fruitier flavors in. Have a longer swan neck as well too when it comes to the actual distillation process as well too. And then we age in French oak, which if you guys know French oak, it is dope barrels, man. Okay, American barrels, beautiful, right? It takes about 6 months to a year to kind of to cooperage. But they cook them and everything on the inside. French oak takes about 5 to 7 years, okay, before they can put it into a barrel, right? Just to let you know, when they cook the trees down into staves, they let them sit in the forest for a whole fucking season. Sorry, I'm still a bartender, I curse. They stay for a whole entire season in the forest as well too, just to rest as well too. And as opposed to cooking them, they age the wood as well too inside the barrel. So it doesn't have that char heaviness you might get from American bourbon, American oak, which is nothing wrong with that because I love a lot of bourbons because we have a bourbon as well too. But it's just different, right? And French oak is beautiful because it brings a lot more floral notes as well too. You get a lot more fruit, a lot of these beautiful, elegant notes that you wouldn't otherwise get when it comes to American oak. So it's aged in first fill cognac barrels, which means that barrel has seen cognac, and then also brand new French oak, and then we blend it. Blueberry muffin top, creme brulees, and bananas foster, guys. Don't fucking believe me? Come taste it afterwards. Yeah, that's well too, man.
Is that pot or is that copper?
It's a pot still. It's a Chiron copper pot still. So Arabic still.
And that's when it's blended?
Yeah. Because we don't in cognac they don't use continuous stills. But then after next, from there we're gonna be traveling to Red Hook, Brooklyn, New York. Widow Jane. Wonderful, delicious whiskey. Gotta tell you, man, this stuff is absolutely delicious. We are sourced whiskey, which you gotta realize what sourced whiskey means as opposed to grain to bottle. Grain to bottle means that your guys actually fermenting, doing everything in one area. You're actually fermenting, you're distilling, you're bottling. This is actually sourced. We source from 3 places of America, the 3 primary places where they make amazing whiskey, which is Indiana, Nashville, and Kentucky. Okay? And the idea behind Widow Jane is to showcase how the 3 best places in America that produce amazing whiskeys, how we can blend them together and create something absolutely beautiful. And by the way, the master distiller, which we are distilling whiskey actually at Widow Jane, is just too young to go into our 10-year blend just yet, but it will be eventually going on there as well too. But her name is Lisa Wicker, okay? She is a phenomenal master distiller, master blender. She's a woman that's broken down barriers in a very male-dominated industry as well too. She's crushing it, and she's doing dope stuff. And one thing that she did is when she came to Widow Jane is source these whiskeys. And the word small batch doesn't mean anything anymore because everybody's putting small batch on labels, right? This is really a small batch whiskey. We get 5 barrels at a time, and she blends with only 5 barrels at a time, okay? And what we do, what makes this super unique is our water source. We actually source our water from the Hudson, a place called, the Rosendale Mines, which is filtered with water that's filtered through limestone, so it's very rich in calcium. A lot of people will connect this to a lot of the amazing pizzas and bagels you get in New York City, because that's what makes them so dope. When you taste this, the finish on it, it's absolutely delicious, very, very long, okay? Any other questions on Widow Jane? No? And then we're just gonna fly out to Chicago, to Evanston. We got Few Whiskey, delicious whiskey based out of Chicago. Paul Hedko, who is the master distiller. This is a grain to bottle whiskey. We get our grain, we ferment, we distill, we bottle, we age, everything at the distillery as well too. He does some really cool stuff. This one I have here is called the Immortal Rye as well too. It's our rye whiskey. We use oolong tea to cut down to proof as opposed to water. Okay, nice tannins, nice finish on it, great for meals, by the way. All right, and then everything is going to be our 90, 20, 10 on our mash bills. We don't obviously disclose our Widow J mash bills because we don't know our mash bills, right? We were resourcing it, right? This is actually always going to be 70% on the rye, 20% on the corn, 10% on the barley, 70% on the corn, 20% rye, 10% on the barley on our bourbon. Okay, super easy. And then also very big connection to 1893 World Fair in Chicago that brought Chicago back after the fire that decimated it. Okay, this was showing Chicago was back on the map. So all of our proof is always going to be 93 proof. All right, cool. All right. So, and then from there, we're going to travel to one last place, which is in Philadelphia. Everybody here, Blue Coat Gin? Yeah. Delicious. Yes, right? Blue Coat is phenomenal gin, guys. One of the first American-style gins as well, too. And what does American-style gin mean, right? Everybody thinks London Dry, right? So that's funny. London Dry, which is a very juniper, piney forward gin, the red coats. We're the blue coats. All right, we're the American style, a little different. Now we're trying to start a war or anything because we've been past that, right? That shit's over. We won. Oh, you know what I mean? Yeah, we won. But what's quite interesting about this is that it's more of American style. So it's going to be less on the juniper, more on the citrus, right? So our juniper we source from, we actually have 6 botanicals, which is juniper, angelica, coriander, and then 3 citruses, which is grapefruit, orange, and lemon. Right, our citrus fruits are sourced from Florida and California as well too. We'll open some inside this bottle, and it's going to be very citrus forward as well too. It's amazing gin. I got to tell you, really phenomenal. We have 3 different expressions. We have an elderflower that we see elderflowers after the fact, and that's where you're going to see a little tinge of the yellow. No sugar added. It's at 46% alcohol by volume as well too. So it's pretty high up there. It's so you don't have to add that extra modifier that might have extra sugar that you don't want. You know what I mean? So that elderflower. And then we have a barrel age, which is fucking dope, guys. Okay, the barrel age is filled with they fill it for 6 months with the gin, empty it, fill it up again, let it sit for another 9 months, and blend between the 2. Very rich, robust, but still has a juniper in it. Okay. That was the fastest, by the way, I've ever done that presentation. Holy shit. Right. Any questions for me? So the way we're going to break this down, I'm going to kind of tell you about certain techniques about garnishes, right? We're going to, and not your typical orange peel, cut, whatever. We're going to do something a little different. Let's kind of elevate them and see what, with the tools that we have access to, let's create things that are like wow effects, right? Because coming out of COVID, people want that wow effect. They want something that like shocks them anymore, right? They want more value for the money. They want experiences, is what they want to pay for, because they realize how short life is, and that's what we want these days. And there's so many easy things you could do these days with these techniques to create that wow effect that are super simple. They just seem intimidating because you don't necessarily understand how it works. And so today we're going to talk about 3 different techniques. We're going to talk about carbonating fruit, all right? We're going to talk about making it flavored air as well too, and then we're going to talk about foams, okay? The way that this is going to be broken down is that we have 6 stations here. We're going to break down into groups, into six groups, and then we're going to actually make our own foam, make our own air as well too, and I have different flavors here. And I'm going to talk about stabilizers. We're going to have 2 different options of stabilizers, and pretty much that's how it's going to be broken down into. Okay, and then what's going to happen when you make your foam and air? I actually have our spirits here, and we're going to do we have blood orange ginger beer, sparkling lemonade, or squirt soda to pair with one of our expressions, and you're going to top it off with the foam and air you guys create afterwards. So you get a chance now to make it to see how it actually works inside of a cocktail. Kind of fun. Okay? Any questions so far? No? We're ready to start? Hell yeah! Let's fucking get in it, right? That's one too. All right, guys. So I guess the first place we're gonna start was carbonated fruit. Let's just go ahead and get around this side of this table here. So carbonated fruit is kind of a cool technique. There's 2 different ways you could approach it, right? So the idea is that with CO2, right? CO2, like all fruit has natural water inside the natural fruit itself. So if you're able to get that CO2 to permeate into the fruit, you can actually carbonate the water that's in that fruit and still keep the actual fruit whole as well too, all right? So there's 2 actual methods of making and doing this. By the way, just kind of give you an idea, guys, come here. Let's go ahead and start digging into some carbonated watermelon. It's already carbonated, guys, all right? And there's 2 methods of doing it. This is one method called with dry ice. Do you guys know what dry ice is? Compressed CO2, guys, right? In the end of the day. So what we're doing, please come in, grab some pieces, because it'd be more fun if you guys actually tasting it and know what we're talking about. You can actually even peel this fruit, and this fruit will be carbonated on the inside. So we'll go ahead.
I got nails on.
You get that nice little fizziness, a little bit of bite on towards the end. We got kumquats, we got watermelons. I got some figs here and some grapes as well too. So the idea behind this and the way that this works is basically you're going to add in a little towel right here, which all the dry ice is gone. You put dry ice inside a little piece of a rag. Put your fruit inside. Make sure that the rag is there so that the dry ice is in contact with the fruit. It's going to freeze the fruit, right? We don't want that. So the dry ice kind of separates away from it. And does everybody get that fizziness? Yeah. Really cool, huh? A lot of fun as well too. This is a really kind of interesting way of creating a garnish that's really going to wow somebody, right? Imagine having a cocktail and the garnish is just as much fun of an experience as the drink is.
How long does it hold the carbonate?
I mean, I gotta tell you, man, I've had fruits like this. Like, maybe, I mean, the thing is once you open it up, you kind of want to serve it immediately. You know what I mean? Because the CO2 wants to escape as fast as possible, as well too. But I've held things for a whole shift as well too, and it stays carbonated the whole entire shift. Now, there's one method of doing it this way, which, by the way, I'm gonna peel this as we talk as well too, because I really want to taste this back myself. So there's one way of doing it is using a dry cool. This is really a lot of fun, guys. If you're gonna do like a special event, you know what I mean? If you want to do like a pairing, like you want to do like something like carbonated fruit to pair with like a straight spirit, what I've done, I've actually paired different carbonations and I have different spices here. So if you take a piece of watermelon and let's say add a little bit of powdered cardamom to it, hey, let's level that shit up, right? And then we have other things, those too. Cayenne pepper goes great with the mango as well too. We got a little bit of gran masala. These are really cool spices that if you do have something carbonated inside your drink, you can just add on top of it, which is super, super cool, right? So that's one way of carbonating. Another way of carbonating it is with ISI. Alright, guys, or EC is actually the right way of saying it. Is everybody familiar with EC?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody know about it? So just so you know, I'm not just some asshole talking, I mean, I'm an asshole. But I'm not just some guy talking about it. I was actually EC's cocktail ambassador for 4 years. Okay, I used to do all the national cocktail presentations. So luckily because of that, I was have access to a lot of their tools. I don't know if you guys want to pass one around as well too. Alright.
We got one coming on this way. It's okay.
So, and we have another one right here.
Orange now. Tangerine
Yeah,
now.
one too. What's cool about the dry ice method, by the way, guys, you can keep the citrus whole. Okay, it's going to permeate through the skin. It's going to carbonate the fruit. You know, so this is a really cool technique. I've actually done that before. I've actually had a whole orange on top of a cocktail before. They're like, what the fuck is an orange on top of my fucking cocktail doing over there? I'm like, wait till you peel and taste it. They were like, holy shit, it was wow effect, right? Really cool, fun way of doing it. There's another way of doing it with using EC, right? And EC is also, you know, this is a gourmet whip, right? This is usually made for making whipped cream foams or cocktail foams or rapid infusions. If you guys ever done rapid infusions, they're super dope with that. But you can also carbonate fruit in here as well too. Because the gases that we use for this one, there's there's N2O, a nitrous oxide, or CO2, right? And CO2 is what we're using to carbonate. So the actual CO2s will work on this machine. And all you gotta do is just put pieces of fruit inside this machine, charge it with the CO2, and just leave it in the refrigerator. And that's what's really good for service. Okay? If you guys wanna do that for service, you can do that for your service, gas it out, go over there, garnish whatever you have to do, seal it back in, recharge it, put it back into the cooler. As long as you have that cost and do before the chargers, you know, because they get a little expensive if you use too many as well too. But this is a really cool technique. So this kind of, and the thing is, what's great, and what really gravitated me towards this industry and why I love what I do is because your imagination is what limits you, right? There's the world of options and things you can create are endless. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's beautiful, right? We can create beautiful experiences for people just by something as simple as just adding dry ice in a freaking cooler with fruit. What do you guys think? Very cool.
So, go again. So, the things that were in the public containers, those were put in back in the containers? They were left in the containers with the lid off?
As long as the lid off, because I did that one time. I actually kept the plastic lid closed, and I was like, why is it carbonated?
It doesn't permeate through it,
Like,
yeah.
I fucking saying with plastic, right? So, as long as you keep it open, keep it in the container, and just keep it in the dry ice, it's all going to stay carbonated as well, too. It's really fucking, like I'm telling you, this is a, no matter, if you bring this to any party event, you're gonna be the fucking star of the show, guys. Alright? Super easy, you just get a piece of dry ice, and Publix carries dry ice. And dry ice is very accessible. I mean, they sometimes get finicky, sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. But majority of the times they usually do carry it. Dry ice is something you could really get your hands on as well, too. Fucking busy, right? What the actual fuck, bro? That's the same thing I thought first time.
And then, so how long do you leave it in the dry ice until the...
Usually, I'd like to keep it overnight. You know what I mean? Overnight is always the best way of doing it. I did this last night.
Like tomato?
No, that's kumquat. Of course, what it is. It's a different type of citrus. It's just, they're like everything orange. They're but it's also like very concentrated flavor, so it tastes like almost like candy orange. So that's super cool. Anyway, carbonated kumquats, guys, fucking banger. That's right. This is an experiment. I don't know how this turned out. I did figs. Anybody wants to go into it? Go ahead and go into it. You know, yeah. It could work. It could not work. I don't know. That's a fun part. We can see what happens. We can see what happens. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it carbonated?
It's like meat.
Tastes like meat. I guess. That's not what we're going for, but fuck it, we'll go with it. Okay. All right. But guys, this is just one aspect, right? Garnishes don't have to be, something that you're limited to something like you might slice a lime with or something on top of a drink, right? Have fun with it, right? This is a really cool way of garnishing a cocktail that's really easy to use. Now, the thing is, when you're using EC to carbonate it, you do have to break it down into smaller pieces. More surface area, has more opportunity for that CO2 to kind of get inside and do its thing. You know what I mean? And then also certain things work better in EC than others, right? Fruits that have a lot of water in it, like bramble fruits work really great. You know what I mean? Like watermelon, things like that work wonderfully inside of them, right? Grapes, guys, if you use the grapes, like grapes right here, you bite into this, it should be fizzy, right? Super fizzy. Yeah. All right. Thing is, if you do that in the EC, and you're adding the CO2, you're adding pressure, it gets great, right? Doesn't look that pretty, right? So whenever you do an EC, I would suggest cutting it in half. All right? You could do a whole watermelon, but cut it in half. All right, guys? Again, I did that one time. Why isn't my watermelon carbonated? Yeah, because the fucking skin's like this thick, right? So I couldn't get into the skin, right? So but I always just make sure you can cut a whole watermelon inside in half, keep it inside the big cooler. The whole thing will be carbonated inside. I'm telling you, it's delicious. And also, CO2 carbonation, if you don't know, it actually it activates pain receptors in our body, right? Which makes us more sensitive to the flavors that we're enjoying. So always remember, CO2 is going to actually enhance your palate because it's going to make your mind more receptive towards flavors because it thinks it's a pain. Quick, if you ever want to see how that works, get a thing of CO2 of dry ice and put your nose inside of it. And take a whip drag. Your head's going to snap back like you wouldn't believe. All right? Your body just starts to break that. So CO2 is a lot of fun, and not only will this be a garnish that you can have fun with, but it also will make your cocktail taste better because it makes a person more receptive to your drink.
So you could do it with a cucumber as well because they got a high water content.
You could, the world's yours. All right? I did it one I did that didn't realize, I didn't even make my voice supposed to be
You got excited. It was,
I'm like a Persian, man. We decided we thought cocktail romance.
That's all.
Yeah. But I actually did it one time with, oh my God, not sour sauce. It's another, like, it's a very rich fucking flavor. It's kind of similar to why it tastes like butterscotch inside it. Mame. I did a mame.
I just did a mame cocktail, and that would be,
They're right, and the thing is, my first instinct is they're fibrous, right? It might not work as well. It's not gonna be carbonated. Bullshit. It was carbonated. It was delicious. Okay. I actually did I did the mame to pair with our NAO expression as well too. That I topped off with a little bit of garam masala spice as well too, which had a little cinnamon spice as well too. It was a delicious pairing. It really worked really well.
So CO2 just brings out like this natural lemon, acidic.
It just carbonates water inside the food. So basically, it's all fruit has water type, right? So it's just naturally carbonate that water. I gotta tell you, it's one of those things that when you think about it, it's like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. But we don't approach it because we think it's complicated, but it's not. It's just literally stick in some dry ice, some fruit, top it up with some as well to seal it up, and we're ready to go.
And that's what those little bullet things do?
Well, that's nitrous oxide. This will be this one, CO2. But this one is dry ice. This one's dry. This is CO2. Dry ice is compressed CO2 to the point where you actually like cold, and it looks like, and that's why it flipped up. So it's pretty much the same thing. This is just gas. CO2. What you call it? The dry ice is actually solid. So again, it's gas and solid, right? Same gas in the end of the day, right? The same thing. So at the end of the day.
Are you adding any water to dry ice to activate it?
No, no.
Just letting the natural water.
You kind of don't want to add the water to activate it because you don't want to go crazy. You want to just slowly evolve and do its thing. You know what I mean? Just keep your piece of dry ice inside there. Keep the rest of your fruit. And then the thing is, you don't want to keep it in a sealed container, right? Because CO2 is gas, right? It's still going to expand. Always put saran wrap in one layer around, and then top it off the top, and put another saran wrap around top. And so it leaves a little space for the air to escape out. Right? That's all you have to worry about. I've done it in coolers like that before, where I had the saran wrap and it worked perfectly fine.
But you're still containing the oxygen
Yeah, but there's still like you can't see. There's little small holes that it's gonna escape out of. You know what I mean? The last thing you want to do is just keeping everything sealed tight, because in that case you're gonna create a bomb, and you don't want to. I'm Middle Eastern, and I can't talk about bombs. Okay? All right. So,
Going to jail. Going to jail.
very clear. So I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I go to jail. So
Or are we looking for figs when you get it?
Just because I want to see what the fuck happens. That's all.
You guys was good.
Tastes like me.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, and that's the thing is, guys, again, we work in a wonderful industry, guys. We are access to so many amazing fruits. Just experiment and have fun, right? Just have fun is the end of the day, right? Like I saw figs, I'm like, let me just put it there, see what happens. So, how much time we have?
10 minutes.
Are you kidding me?
No, you got more.
Oh, fuck it.
It's my go-to answer.
All right, so now, guys,
15.
Any more questions on the carbonated part, for fruit part? All right. So now we're going to talk about something else. We're going to talk about spumas, right? So you guys might have heard of spumas or foams. The spuma is actually a technique that was created by a gentleman named Ferran Adria from a restaurant called El Bulli in Spain. Phenomenal guy, man. This guy was doing crazy scientific shit with drinks as well too. Before most of us were even born, I think, at the time, right? Maybe I might be 18 before that shit. But anyways, so this guy was one of the things he created was the spumas, which is an idea of like how to create like foams with flavor, right? And there's like kind of two different ways of really kind of approaching them, and that's what we're going to talk about today. One is making an air, and the other one's going to be making a foam, right? Spuma technically means foam, but I kind of consider air into that group because at the end of the day, it's a flavor, kind of like bindable bubbles, and foams are technically bindable bubbles, right? They're just more creamier in texture, and they're more tighter as well too. That's the reason why they have more texture on your mouth palate. And airs are kind of the same thing, right? So airs are really interesting is because what airs do, as opposed to foams, which kind of create like part of the cocktail, airs coat your mouth with the flavoring inside of it, right? So basically, let's say you do a certain type of coating on top, you take that coat, you're gonna automatically coat the inside of your mouth with whatever that air tastes like before the cocktail comes in and finishes off and follows the drink. All right? Super, really, really cool. It's really easy, and what's phenomenal about this, I've done this for events where I've done airs for 1,000 people before as well too, with only 8 ounces of actual base liquid. All right? Because at the end of the day, it's still bubbly air, so it's very light, it's very, and it expands. So the way that it works as well too, and kind of get into more scientific stuff when we experiment on doing airs, is that you basically, you always have to do, you rather use soy lecithin or sucro, which is another two. Those are the two you guys want to use. Soy lecithin as well too is one that I always am fond of using, and it's very accessible. You go to GNC, it has it. It's actually super healthy for you as well too. It's good for your brain, it's good for your bones, it's good for all around. I put it in my smoothies as well too. But also it works really cool as this really cool molecular technique. And basically what you're doing is by adding the soy lecithin to the liquid and adding air, introducing air, the soy lecithin actually binds into that liquid and creates these bindable bubbles that don't dissipate, that actually holds on top of the drink. So when you look at it, you have this beautiful cloud on top of a cocktail as well too. It looks like cotton candy almost sometimes, you know what I mean, depending on how you use it. And it holds, and it pretty much picks up any kind of flavor, all right? So I am going to kind of break it down the science of it, and then we're just going to get involved and start doing it, right? So basically the way it works out is the amount of soy lecithin you have to use is very, very important. You can't use too much because it will break. You always have to stay between 0.5 to 1% of total volume of liquid. There's what that means? No? Okay, there we go. Perfect. So let's just say for 32 ounces, right? It's a liter. How many milliliters is in a liter? 1,000. How many grams is that equal? 1,000. Yeah. Well, milliliters to grams are always the same. So 1,000 is 1,000 grams. Or liquid, right? We're talking about liquid. So yeah, we're not doing hair with solids, but remember. Metric system. So no. But he makes a valid point. Don't worry. We're not talking about liquid, guys, right? We're not talking about
Just be able to switch to 2 when you're ready. Don't worry.
So we're talking about liquid, guys, right? So if it's 1,000 grams, how much is 0.5 to 1% of 1,000 grams? It's a 10 to 5 to 10 grams, right? So we want to stay to, let's say if we do 32 ounces of liquid, we want to stay to 5 to 10 grams of soy lecithin. You go anything above that 10 grams, it's not going to work.
Why?
It just breaks down. I don't know, something about this. It doesn't hold up.
Just like
That 5 to 10% is that magic ratio. There's pretty sure a good scientific reason that I don't fucking know. But it does work. I don't know if between 5 to 1, 5 to 0.5 to 1%, that's the world you always want to kind of live in, right? So in this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get, and water is also a very important ingredient in making air, all right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have 32 ounces, we're gonna measure out. We're gonna do 16 ounces of water, and then 8 ounces of whatever flavor you guys decide to choose. And trust me, I got a whole option of flavors here for you guys to make your air drink. Okay?
Does the water matter? Does it have to be cold, hot?
I mean, cold. You always want to stay with cold. Cold always works the best. I've never done hot airs before, and it might work. Something might work. I'm not sure the stabilizer might work for that. You know, that might have
So
something else in it.
temperature has a difference.
Yeah, I think it might break down as well too. But then again, I have seen hot foams before on dishes.
Just like a
Like because they usually use it for culinary purposes. Man. So
Maybe
they do too.
like this is the dish is hotter.
These are things to think about.
It might be possible, man, but again, I'm not serving hot cocktails in Miami, so we're gonna be doing everything with cold as well too, guys. So again, it's gonna be 16 ounces of water, and then we're gonna use 8 ounces of whatever flavor, and then we're gonna measure out. I put 7 grams of soy acetate. That's the ratio I've been using, 7 grams to 32 ounces of liquid, and it's been working every single fucking time.
So it's 16, 24, and then 7 is
No,
31.
well, 16 and 8, because 16 ounces, and then 8 would be 32, and then after that you have
No, that's 24.
Sorry, hold on, do the
16.
there's 16 is 32. So actually we do 20 10s. Okay, so 20 ounces of water, 10 ounces of flavor. Okay, and then give me the 2 grams of water. And then we'll put 7 grams of soy acetate. That should be fine.
So then it'd be 35.
No, you guys are gonna do it. I didn't do shit. I've been doing this shit 1,000 times. I'm fucking tired. I'm tired.
I'm learning from someone else.
Okay, okay, guys, and the last thing we're talking about is foams, right? So, guys, foams is a really cool thing. Using these whippers as well too. It's a really great way of creating a nice little foam topping on top of your cocktail, garnish-wise, as well too. You can use different stabilizers. You have what you use as you have agar, you have gelatin, but the best ones to easy use are cream, egg whites, and then what I have here is aquafaba, chickpea water. Okay, yeah. So chickpea water, if you guys don't know, is phenomenal. It does have a little bit of a grainy flavor to it. You have to be careful what ingredients you use with it, but it works well with foams. It actually works better than egg whites and foams, man. It actually works better as well too. I've kept them next to each other, and the egg white ones tend to dissipate a little quicker as well too. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a foam with egg whites or aquafaba, depending on which your group decides to choose to use with whatever flavor, and then that's it. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and make our foams, and then me and Jennifer are gonna make cocktails for you guys. So when your foams are done, we're gonna top up your foams and enjoy your drinks.
Where can you get boron?
Boron, actually good question. So Boron is another company I work for. I'm the national.
Really now? Really?
That was a nice lead-in, by the way. So Boron is a wonderful puree company that has the zero or very little amount of sugar, sourced for fruit from all around the world, bring it to the factory in France. Where they process it as well too. It's really wonderful stuff. You're gonna taste this. I gotta tell you, these are where culinary chefs and the high end of the high end use these purees for their stuff, which pretty much means they're fucking expensive. But hey, they're really absolutely good and delicious. What?
Chef's Warehouse, if you want to make you get it, like down in the
Yeah, Chef's Warehouse carries it right now. Yeah, pretty much it. There's House of Caviar that's in at Fort Lauderdale. So Marquis as well too. Marquis has it. Marquis has it as well too. We have an ambient line which just came out. It's a shelf-stable line, 18 months, no refrigeration needed. Once you open it, you have about a week and a half. Still 100% fruit. All right, guys, it's just the way they cook it.
same price.
It's still a little cheaper for you around the frozen one.
Really?
Yeah, it's nice. As well too. So we're looking. But so guys, basically, I need you to break down 10 minutes. That's what too. Into 6 groups. 6 groups. How many people we have here?
Roughly 30.
How's about this? Everybody start grabbing towards the table, okay? Just pick towards the table. Let's go towards the table.
Here.
Okay? All right? Everybody grab a table? All right? So now first thing we're going to do is grab our favorite, right? So we have right now different options. We have coconut. We have, this one is pineapple, okay? We have pomegranate. Grab your flavor and then go to your table. Anybody want to grab a flavor?
I grab 3.
Let's grab a flavor, guys. Just grab a flavor. We got 9. I mean, I would suggest. Yeah, 9 is great for the air. I would suggest this.
What's this?